No. They're not walking around.
Yes.
Hi, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Leicester and Leicestershire and Rutland Combined Fire Authority Local Pension Board. This day, Wednesday, 12th of February. Welcome to you all. We start off with apologies, please. Any apologies? No?
Well, we've had apologies for an in-person meeting with Adam Taylor from the Fire Brigade Unit, but hopefully he'll join us remotely.
Okay, thank you. Right, we move on then to the minutes. That was the meeting held on the 4th of September. You've all had copies of that. Can I take it as read and propose it from the chair? If we have a seconder to that, please.
I think given that
I wasn't here.
Adam isn't here, then we'll have to just note this.
All right, thank you very much. So the minutes are noted, member.
Yeah.
Thank you. Item 3 is conflict of interest. Is there anybody wishes to declare any conflict of interest? No. Thank you very much indeed. Right, so we rapidly move on to the scheme manager's report, which we've all received and is very intense in charts and everything else. So I'm looking forward to listening to it. And welcome to you, Colin. And
thank you.
We hand the floor to you now, if that's.
Just before we start, Helen says she has to leave at 11. So I don't know if you had this item first. Or do you want? It should be.
It should be. I think we should be okay. Yeah, I remember it take 10 minutes. Be okay. Yeah, you need to be here for the final item. So. Okay, shall I start?
Yeah,
okay.
Yes,
okay,
please.
yeah. Yes. So the purpose of this report, as you know, is to provide an update on the management of the firefighters' pension scheme. So it is quite a detailed report this time. So I'll take a few minutes, if I may, to provide an overview of it, pick out some key points, and also provide a couple of updates, because the nature of this world at the moment is that as soon as you've written anything, it's out of date. So I've again sought to focus on looking forward about delivering the tasks that we need to do, whilst providing some brief background on the Sergeant McLeod remedy and the Matthews on-call retained second options exercise. Also, the routine governance reporting, which is important for this board, such as breaches, audit, the pensions dashboard, and scheme manager decisions. The overriding message, I think, for the board remains the very hard volume of work to get through limited skilled staff resources and a range of ongoing national developments, similar to my previous report. So the Government Statutory Department calculator tools, pension statement formats, tax rules, pension administration software. Uncertainty continues to remain regarding some of the detail set against the background of the possibility of further claims. But as with the last report, I've retained the grouping of uncertainties and difficulties in 6 broad categories as a reminder. We still currently expect to deliver most of our part locally, whilst keeping the day-to-day pensions administration show on the road, but we do recognise there's significant uncertainties and risks locally and nationally, and the pressure on key staff. So, turning to some of the detail in the report regards the Sergeant McLeod remedy and the Matthews second options exercise. Just as a very brief recap, if you'll recall, national regulations for Sergeant McLeod remedy and Matthews on-call retained firefighter second options exercise took effect from October 2023. There's an 18-month implementation period through to March 25, although the Matthews exercise for retained firefighters is likely now to be extended to March 2026. And so the focus remains on delivering both of those. The Sergeant McLeod remedy relates to age discrimination that was held by the courts for arisen from transitional protection arrangements when the Career Average 2015 scheme was introduced. Older scheme members were allowed to remain in their legacy final salary, 1992 or 2006 scheme, for longer than younger members, with some retiring in their legacy scheme on or before March 2022. As the younger members were not given the same opportunity to remain in the 1992 and 2006 schemes, but were transferred to the 2015 scheme sooner, this was found to be discriminatory on the grounds of age discrimination. Hence why we have the age discrimination remedy. So at April 22, all team members became members of the 2015 scheme. So even those that hadn't already transferred were transferred into the 2015 scheme in April 22, regardless of age and length of service. Those who were employed before April 2015 all have the opportunity to be treated as having remained in the 1992 or 2006 scheme for the remedy period up from April 2015, when the new scheme came in, to March 22, and everybody moved into the 2015 scheme. Or indeed, they can choose the 2015 scheme for this period, which is unlikely at the moment, but some might do. And this is known as the deferred choice underpin, which is a nice pensions term, and they are known as deferred choice members. The Matthews second options exercise relates to certain former and current on-call firefighters who are now able to buy back 2006 scheme membership from the start of their service as part-time workers. Some people's service goes back to the 1960s, and hitherto the service would have had no reason to keep in touch with them, or in some cases their surviving relatives. So now that they or their relatives have the opportunity to buy back scheme membership right back to the start of that service, this has been a very significant communications, data collection and data analysis task. We now have contacts for almost all the potentially eligible memberships. We engage the service of the tracing agents on with Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire to trace those that have moved on from the addresses that many addresses that we held, and we're down, I think, to about 20 or so now that just cannot be traced. So I'm content that we've made more than reasonable efforts to trace these former on-call firefighters, say through using our own records, and then engaging a professional tracing agency that has gone through a number of detailed procedures and data to try and ascertain current addresses or that have died and the relatives and the surviving relatives' addresses. We've supplied data to West Yorkshire Pension Fund, and Helen is on the call on the meeting, who are our administrators, ready to put 50 or more of the more straightforward Matthews pensions into payments when they're ready to do so. And we're starting to process payment for one-off death grants where there's no ongoing pension. Pensions are fully taxable in the year of payment, and as things stand, there's no mechanism for recipients of Matthews benefits to have that tax liability recalculated as if the payments have been made through previous tax years. I think that is something that nationally we will end up coming back to. But as things stand at the moment, Matthews pension arrears and grants are taxed in fully in the year of payment, and there's no mechanism to say, well, if I'd have received that over all the number of years, I wouldn't have paid as much tax. The finance and HR teams continue to process day-to-day pensions work and gathering and process significant volumes of data. And again, as I said, this is an ongoing challenge in terms of staff availability and skills and experience, as indeed it is for West Yorkshire Pension Fund as our administrators. Just to pick up on some of the points in the report, in terms of the financial impact of all of this upon the CFA, the payments are normally classed as a scheme payment, therefore they're charged to the pension fund account, which is reimbursed by the government. So there's no direct cost to the Combined Fire Authority of all these remedy payments and Matthews retained second options payments. We try to avoid making payments, or will try to avoid making payments that are not chargeable to the pension fund, because they would have to be met by the Combined Fire Authority. Employees generally will pay additional backdated contributions or receive refunds because the employee contribution rates are different for each of the schemes. So when we take these back into the remedy period, or people buy back the Matthews retained pension entitlement, they are required to pay back the contributions as well or receive a refund. But that doesn't apply to the services the employer. So there's no immediate cost to the services the employer of this, but the ongoing cost of these additional pensions is taken into account in the 3-yearly revaluation, reassessment of employer pension contributions. And that was one of the reasons why the employer contribution increased quite a lot April of last year. And the ongoing effects of all of this will be taken into account in the revision of employer contributions from April 2027. So that is a risk for the fire sector nationally, what happens to employer contribution rates on the 3-yearly reviews as it picks up the additional cost of paying all these extra pensions. And obviously we also incur day-to-day costs in terms of staffing, like a greater input from myself, the scheme manager, etc., to manage and process all of this. Just some other points to note. The National Injury to Feelings Award is covered in the report. With the age discrimination that happened, it was agreed that there was also what was called an Injury to Feelings Award, was due, in the sense that firefighters had suffered some sort of injury to their feelings through this not having been dealt with in what was found to be a lawful manner. That has taken a long time to work through nationally. We understand now that payments have started to be made. So firefighters within the scope of remedy are now, we understand, starting to receive checks through the post, so to speak, but they're being administered nationally. And I'm chasing an update from the LGA and the solicitors that have been working on this, so that fire authorities do understand what's going on. Because although fortunately they are all being administered nationally, the legal claims are against each fire authority as the employer. So we're not entirely heart to one side of it, but the FBU and the Home Office who seems to be working together to reach agreements on the various aspects of injury to feelings and the payments that are being administered nationally via the solicitors. Do need to mention the new National Pensions Dashboard. This has been on previous reports and it's intended to enable people to find summary details of all their pensions in one place. I think it will be very useful for people that have perhaps worked across different employers and have little pension pots, or not so little pension pots, in different pension funds with different employers. Probably less use to people that have perhaps worked all their life in the fire service and have a fire service pension and nothing else. But nonetheless, it's a national requirement. Fire schemes are required to connect by October of this year, with the statutory deadline being October next year. West Yorkshire, as our administrator, are doing most of the work on this in terms of validating the data, checking it's in the right format, making sure that the IT will be in place to connect West Yorkshire's records, summary records, through to the pensions dashboard. But nonetheless, the CFA and the scheme manager are legally responsible for this, and the pensions regulator certainly see it as a very high profile exercise and regularly send reminder emails and information on it. I don't have any material concerns presently. I think West Yorkshire have developed a detailed plan and seems to be working through it, but it is something that the board should be mindful of. And obviously, if I do become concerned about it, that will be something I will report to you. In terms of breaches, if certain breaches happen, i.e. where things aren't done according to the rules and regulations, if they're relatively small or minor, they should be reported here. If they're more significant or material, they should also be reported through to the pensions regulator. So in my report, I've referenced a breach that affected a handful of members who were on ill health retirement that was noted by the internal audit report. So I've highlighted that in the report, so that's being properly reported through to you, but it's not material enough to need reporting to the pensions regulator. If West Yorkshire are not able to issue the annual benefit statements and remedial service statements to those members who are in scope of the Sergeant McLeod discrimination, by the 31st of March, that would be reportable to the board and would be reportable to the pensions regulator. And again, the Matthews exercise not being completed by the end of this March may well become a reportable breach, notwithstanding the government is intending to extend the deadline to March 2026, but that's unlikely to be in place by March 25. Although there may be a ministerial letter, but we'll see how that one goes. I'm sure Helen will cover, but there are sort of concerns at resourcing levels in West Yorkshire and also the availability of software systems to take forward the processing of all of this, and hence why the concern remains about annual benefit statements and remedial service statements, perhaps whether they will be issued by the end of March or not. And I'm sure Helen will probably cover some of that. I've made a number of individual decisions as scheme manager since the last board. Mainly they relate to the dates when ex-retained firefighters started their service, because, as I say, some of these go back into the 1960s and 70s. The records aren't necessarily available, and therefore we have taken the view on some occasions when evidence has been supplied about when people started as a returned firefighter. And I've also had a handful of late transfers from other pension schemes. This is where people have been in, and I said, classically within the army or one of the armed forces pension schemes, but it can be others. They've moved into the fire service and they haven't transferred their pension fund across within a year, but subsequently they decide they want to. And we take a look at those with a view to allowing them unless there's a really good solid reason not to. And I've also updated the risk register, which is in essence to approach the March 2025 deadline approaching. So Helen's here from West Yorkshire as our administrator. She'll give an update and take questions. Sean, as our tyre service advisor, is here. And we've also obviously got Judy and Paul as senior officers of the service and Lauren as the monitoring officer. So thank you, Chair. That completes my introduction. Happy to take any questions.
Right, thank you very much indeed. Could I first welcome Helen and Adam to our meeting? We had a little bit of a slowness getting it all sorted, but we're there now and we can see you clearly, and welcome to you. Thank you, Colin, for that. There was something where you sort of looking at historical ones and then you declared there's a cut-off, we can't carry on with them. Is there anybody above the scheme as adjudicator who says, no, that's correct, that's fine? I just wondered, because it just sounded as though you'd reached the end of your tether or whatever, trying to find these people.
Yeah.
And is it legitimate that you can just cut them off, or can you just put them in a pile and think, well, they're there if somebody ever comes or whatever? So that was my quick.
Yeah, I think this is the ex-retained firefighters that are not entitled to buy back pension to when they started, so it can be a long time ago. But we just can't track them or their surviving relatives, track them down. Yeah, I mean, the regulations require us to have taken reasonable endeavours to find people, which I think we have now done, because we've gone through our own records. We've engaged a tracing agency. They have different levels of tracing, and we've taken them through the different levels of tracing. So I think if there was any challenge subsequently, we'd be able to evidence that we've taken all reasonable steps. I mean, assuming the deadline for the exercise is extended to March 26, that does give a further period for people to realise they might have an entitlement and to contact us. Ultimately, someone could complain to the service's own in dispute resolution procedure or to the pensions regulator, or actually take us to court. So
ultimately,
take us to court.
And ultimately, it's a judge or a pension ombudsman who decides, have we shown best endeavours? But given that there are more than 500 people in scope for this exercise, there was dregs of less than 20, and it's been a multi-pronged approach. We haven't just used this who exhausted all the databases they can. We've also had support from National Association of Retired firefighters, they have members and that they've communicated.
Exhausted
Yeah.
virtually all the sense.
Yeah,
and
we-
realistic.
Absolutely.
Like, all right, well, that answers that. And
Yeah, we-
I'm grateful for that.
Yeah,
Thank
we've
you
done
very
the general comms, haven't we, to try and raise awareness, like through the.
Yes, there
So
are a
different
number
grades.
of things we can demonstrate we've done,
Yeah.
including social media through
Yeah.
Leicestershire social media accounts, external websites,
Yeah.
national work has been
Yeah.
done as well. Fire Brigades Union have supported services by
Yeah.
writing to their outer trade members.
Yeah.
Same with the FRSA, which is a
Yeah.
on-call only
Yeah.
union. So we can show we've done everything we can and anything
Yeah.
that's humanly possible.
Yeah, we,
Also, the numbers, this is a little bit morbid, but the numbers that we currently have untraceable, the tracing company that we use continues to search databases. And the one thing that can change with people is if a death is registered, that all of a sudden spits out a report on the tracing agent database and they come back to us. So I can say, in respect to Derbyshire, I think we had 17 untraceable, and within a month it turned to 14 because unfortunately 3 people who we just simply couldn't find. Then all of a sudden there was a death registered for them. So the numbers, we maintain showing best endeavours
Yeah.
for another 12 months that the tracing company continues to provide us with those.
Yeah, that's very good. Well, from my perspective, and that's a distance away, it sounds perfectly excellent and first class. So, members, any other comments on that you'd like to ask Colin? I know it was rapid and it was a lot of words in there and a lot of stuff going on, but you've read the report as well. Yes, Adam. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Colin, for the report as ever. Just a question. You mentioned contribution rates. As scheme manager, did we consider participating in the consultation over contribution rates at all, Colin?
we considered it. I think it became a very quite technical response, and this is something to which there is no right answer. So I'm not aware that the fire service, as corporate as the fire service, responded to that consultation. We did review the LGA response and saw that, but ultimately, I think the spread of the contribution rates across different salary grades of employees is firefighters there's a large element of judgment call in that one, I think. So no, we didn't.
Okay. Cheers, Colin. Thank you. Thanks, Chair. That's all from me.
Yes.
Thanks, Colin.
Introduce you.
Yeah, Nigel Porter is my name. Councillor at Leicester City Council, actually councillor for Ayleston Ward, if anybody knows that part of the city. So thanks. And yeah, Colin, you know, you're talking about obviously the ex-retained firefighters and what you're saying about 500 or so being traced, and the government are going to cover all of the costs. Is that correct? So my question really was, if it was the responsibility of the fire authority, clearly isn't the government are going to cover it, how much does it actually come to? And will that be paid out for until the people, till these pensioners have finally concluded, whether it's,
Yeah.
I mean, do we just know the sort of the likely costs? That's what
We don't really know the likely costs, no, because I mean we'll be getting closer to it, and we are working through them now. But because we don't know who would actually put a claim in,
right.
and we haven't, and we don't know what data may or may not have been available regards what they used to be paid. So we are getting, as we work through more of them, we haven't done it yet, but we could get closer now to producing a forecast cost. I mean, the legal responsibility sits with the fire authority as the employer. So although all these regulations are national, the court judgments are national, the legal responsibility is with each fire authority as a scheme employer. The government have undertaken to cover the costs. They are a charge to they are a charge either to the pension fund, which is so the government makes up the deficit, or if it's what's called compensation. So it's not a pension payment, but it's a compensation payment. Again, the government have committed to reimburse those, but the legal responsibility for paying and funding it does rest with each of the fire authorities.
Right. So will you invoice the government every year to cover?
Yeah, there's a claims process being set up. So we haven't actually paid many yet, so it's not to become much of an issue yet. But we're having to do either quarterly or monthly, depending on the detail, returns now to the Home Office for both schemes, showing what's been processed. There is a mechanism in place if it would cause a cash flow problem for fire authorities to sort of essentially seek an advance from the Home Office.
Yeah.
Yes, there'll be that annual reconciliation on the pension fund account, and we'll need to submit, I think, quarterly claims for compensation payments as we get going with the actual payments. So the working assumptions have got to be the government will reimburse all of this, but the legal responsibility sits with the fire authority.
Right. Okay. And in terms of the government actually, covering your costs, could there be a bit of a drag? Is that what you're saying in terms of cash flow, that, you might stick your invoice in and they don't pay for 6 months or?
I mean, yeah, I don't know how quick they'll pay, but yes, potentially there's a bit of a cash flow drag in that we make payments and then we'll get the money back at some point. But as I say, there is scope for fire authority. It does, if it gets to the point where an individual fire authorities would really struggle cash flow wise. They can ask for some cash up front.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Yes, please.
Sorry, if I could just go back to Adam's question. Whilst Leicestershire as an authority did give a written consultation feedback to Home Office, the LGA consultation feedback that Colin mentioned was the product of some detailed meetings that Colin and I attended, and Helen, the LGA and Home Office, and a number of services, well, certainly Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire, also didn't write a report because we'd fed into those meetings. And there is a regional group called Fire Pension Officers Group that I attend with. That tends to be with the West Midlands services, and that meeting was also attended by the LGA, and we agreed as a group across the Midlands that it's pointless 45 FRAs taking time when we're in the middle of Sergeant McLeod and Matthews, when in the real world we were all feeding into the LGA. So it's best to view the LGA's input as coming from all the services and the administrators.
Yeah.
Chair, if I can just supplement that, I was going to can't. Maybe. Sean's just confirmed what I was going to add. Actually, we did have a discussion about whether there should be a singular response from the authority from Leicestershire, and the conclusion was that there was going to be a response from the LGA. So we took that position.
I think it was a very technical.
Yeah.
It was a very technical. There was a lot of technicalities in it, which, as Sean says, we'd have all ended up saying the same thing. And there's a judgment call, and there's an element of judgment call. It's about what seems fair, and perceptions of fairness are in the eye of the beholder. So.
All right. Well, yes, please.
Just ask a quick question, and you may have covered this, Colin, while Helen's on the line as well. In terms of the new system in very layperson's terms, is there likely to be a passed on cost to the services that use West Yorkshire Pension Fund?
Probably best for Helen to answer that one.
Is there any other question before we start? I'm sorry, Helen, I just want to know, are we finished? Because we've got Helen down as part of our agenda to talk to us. So have we finished with that particular point and aspect? Are we all comfortable with that to move forward? Right, well, welcome again, Helen, and we'd like to hear from you. Good morning and welcome.
Right, thank you. So in terms of the cost, I mean, I think there is an element of the cost of the software services that is split to all the clients, but I think we share it on along with the local government clients, and it's all on a per member basis. and also some of the stuff we do absorb as well before passing on. So I think there's been some information sent about, you know, the projected cost per members, but I think it's only, I think it's around £19, and I don't think it's a particularly significant increase, and I think most of that increase is probably more to do with the dashboard rather than age discrimination remedy and the software changes.
Thanks, Helen.
So
Thank
you have the January client report attached, so I don't propose to go through that one at all, as you've all had it. So just before I give you kind of the more current position, does anybody have any questions or anything they want to raise on the content of the report?
Well, are you going to talk to the report, Helen? So
No,
no.
I'm not, because there's quite a lot of other things. As Colin said at the start, once you've written it, it's out of date. So I am going to update on a lot of the key areas that you know, cover the fire pensions. So no, unless anybody has a question, I'm not proposing to kind of go into any of the detail of the content.
I'll just ask,
Yes.
yeah. Can I just ask one question? I don't know if this was in your report or in Colin's, but there was one thing I saw about the S&I interest rates, which were coming down from the 20th, I think, of December down to 3.5% or something like that. I just thought,
Yeah,
it seemed particularly low rate. I mean, I just did a quick search, you know, on the internet, and you can get rates over 4% quite easily.
oh right, no, so
That's all.
yeah, so within the age discrimination remedy, there's two key sets of interest. Anything where a payment is owed to the scheme member, that payment gets 8% interest. Anything where the member owes the payment to the authority, so that would be mainly those members who were in the 92 scheme, moved into the 2015 scheme for the remedy period, but as a result of the age discrimination are going back into the 92 for the relevant period. They owe the difference in pension contributions between the 92 rate and the 2015 rate that they did pay. The interest on those contributions is at the NS&I rate, so it's beneficial that the rate is
lower for them. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. And any other comments or questions from members present? No. Okay. Well, that was fairly painless and swift. You had a long wait for it, but anyway.
No. So now I've got you. Now I've got your proper update.
Oh, jolly good. Right.
Yeah, I've got so obviously lots of key things going on. So the first thing I want to confirm is the fire valuation. So West Yorkshire Pension Fund submitted data to GAD by the middle of January. It was a little bit later than the deadline, but due to a number of factors, GAD were aware that our submission was going to be late, and we were having regular meetings about the submission. Now, GAD break the data down into two parts. They have what they call stock data, which is the information about active deferred pensioner and beneficiary pensioner members, and that was what needed to go first. They then have something that they call movement data, and basically what that is, it's, you know, you're telling them that everybody that was active, who left in the valuation period, did they go on to pension, did they have a deferred, did they have a refund, have they transferred or whatever, and you do that for active deferred pensioners and the beneficiary members. So along with when we sent the stock data, we also sent the deferred pensioner and beneficiary movements. So the only thing outstanding is active movements, and there is a deadline of the 28th of February to get that sent. So all your data has been sent apart from the active movement. And as I say, we've got to the end of this month to do it. But I'm actually on leave from next Thursday, so it will go some point between now and Wednesday night. So just to confirm that that's all been in hand and all been done. So the other thing that we have is the HMRC annual event reporting and tax charge payments. So I can confirm that the payments were sent for those members who retired and took a lump sum out of the pension scheme that needed tax deducting. So we've made sure those payments went before the deadline of the 31st of January, and we've done the annual submissions before the deadline as well. Colin will probably be aware that we have a problem with the amounts that HMRC say that they're expecting compared to the amounts that have been paid. And the maths on the HMRC website are flawed. So we've raised a query with HMRC about what is showing on what is called the Managing Pensions Service. And we're waiting for them to come back to us to explain their figures. But in terms of the reporting and the payments, they've all been sorted. We're now just running a query with HMRC about the actual figures themselves and why they think they're expecting more than we've paid. Then the next thing is pension saving statements. So pension saving statements are a notification to members where their pension has grown by more than the HMRC stated allowance each year. So as a result of the age discrimination remedy and the pension regulations that came into force the 1st of October 23, those regulations said that every active member had to be treated as being rolled back into their legacy scheme at that point. So that meant that every year from 15-16 through to 22-23, the annual allowance calculations had to be redone on the basis of membership of the final salary scheme. So across all clients, we had about 800. So a pretty big task. So what we've done is we dealt with those who we knew had already had a tax charge under the previous regime. So so they would obviously going to have further tax charges as a result of the rollback position. So we dealt with those first, and then we looked at all our data, and then we looked at producing statements for anybody whose annual allowance growth, the technical term is called pension input amount, was over 100,000. Because we expected that there would be a tax charge. So we dealt with those. Then we did 80 to 100, and we've now dealt with everybody whose pension input amount was showing as 55,000 or more. They should all have had a remedy pension saving statement. And whilst we were dealing with that part, anybody who we also checked the calculations for 23-24. And therefore, anybody who breached in 23-24 was also sent a statement for that year. We obviously haven't covered everybody in that. And we were looking at, so we've still got outstanding people between 35,000 and 55. And we've made a decision that based on what we've encountered so far, that although there is a requirement that these people need to get a pension saving statement, there will not be any tax charges due. So these calculations are going to be done through an automated system once we've rolled back the records and we're in a position to produce the ABS RSS. So we are currently in the process of putting together a report so that we can report to TPR because the deadline for pension saving statements was the 31st of January. So there'll be, but we're just putting together the kind of, as I say, the information, because TPR don't just want to know there's been a breach, they want your plan of action to rectify it. So we're just kind of fine tuning that, and as soon as that's available and we're going to be sending it, then we'll be letting all FRAs have that information, so that again you can look at that and decide whether or not you're reporting to TPR. Anybody got any questions on any of that so far?
Anybody?
No.
Oh, Helen, I'm so sad to say nobody's asking you a question.
That's absolutely fine. I don't mind.
That was a
So,
perfect
right.
answer.
Yeah. So then, annual benefit statements, remediable service statement package for those in scope for age discrimination remedy. We got the updates to our computer system, the pensions admin system, nearly kind of 2 weeks ago. We were closed. The system was down for 3 days. So all the information is in live at the moment. So we have now uploaded the financial data for your whole-time firefighters. And for Leicestershire, we have the data in the records for 160 out of the 176 full-time employees that are in scope. We have a problem loading data for retained at the moment. That's with Civica, the software supplier, to provide a fix to the problem. So we will be getting that loaded as soon as the fix is in place. So now, because the data is in, the next stage is actually doing the physical rollback of the pension records to reflect the fact that the kind of, under the regulations, service between the 1st of April 2015 and the 31st of March 2022 is in the relevant final salary. But we also need to make sure that if the member wanted to have 2015 membership from the 1st of April 2015, we're holding the data as well to do those calculations. And this is what we refer to as the rollback. We are doing the first rollback this afternoon. We are doing it for one of the fire authorities that isn't a payroll client, because what we've been told is that once you start the rollback process, you can't do any calculations through the system until you've completed the rollback process. So in case anything goes wrong and there's any problems that we didn't encounter problems in test, but in case there are any problems in the live system, which we've chosen to do the first one as a non-payroll client, so that wouldn't affect, if something does go wrong, it wouldn't affect the pensions. We can still get the information through to that non-payroll client to pay the pensions. So if that is successful, then over the next few days, we will be doing the rollback for all clients, and we will then be at the stage of requiring the contribution adjustment data to upload. And when we've done that, the pension records should then be have all the data in that will allow the ABS RSS to be produced. So at this stage, we are extremely hopeful that the ABS RSS will go out for your whole-time members. I'm not quite so confident about retained, because we haven't managed to get the data, the financial data in, because of the issues. But at this stage, I'm hopeful, with a lot of fingers crossed, that active whole times will go and we will be able to produce. I think they are all the kind of key points and the key areas of where we are. No, immediate choice. We still are not in a position to process the red cases due to the offsetting issue. and we're waiting for some guidance information from GAD, Government Actuaries Department, and they are producing some calculation examples based on the HMRC guidance that was produced in their newsletter. But in doing that, GAD have encountered a few issues where they don't feel the guidance covers all the scenarios that we have. So they've been having meetings with HMRC to get this whole issue resolved. So we are hopeful of getting something in place that will allow us to process REDs, but at the minute we're not in that position. So then, just finally, as Colin kind of touched on, like resourcing and staffing, we're currently trying to put a restructure in place, and the main thing about the restructure is that fire will be moved out of our kind of service centre area, which is kind of the pensions admin part, and it will be moved into a standalone section, so that we can really ensure that fire is treated as it needs to be treated based on the nature and the complexity of the fire schemes, and not get it lost within the LG area. So the kind of, we've got the basic principles. I think it's still waiting to go through to all the approval levels. So we're doing that, and we hope that will bring us some improvements in service delivery, and it will allow us to kind of streamline and get processes and calculation updates done, so that we're just more efficient. And then on top of that, we have been recruiting. We've been trying to recruit, but as Colin kind of mentioned, there is just nobody out there with fire pensions knowledge. And the reality is, because of age discrimination remedy and Matthews, you need fire pensions knowledge. You can't, and so we are struggling with the number of experienced, knowledgeable staff we've got and the amount of work that needs doing. So we have recruited, but we've had to recruit at the lowest pensions officer level. So these people are not necessarily got pensions knowledge, and they definitely haven't got fire knowledge. So we're having to train them. We're also bringing in some casual temporary staff to try and help with some of the kind of data load and the data shifting and the more simple but time-consuming bits of work that we've got. So we are absolutely trying our best, but there just isn't anybody out there to recruit that will give us the kind of gains that we would want in the shortest period of time. So that's kind of where we are with staffing. So that concludes my update. If anybody's got any questions on any of that.
Yes, please.
Yeah, thanks, Helen. That was really useful. Thank you. Can I just ask regards the Matthews cases? I think Leicestershire have sent about 50 Matthews cases through to its customs payment. I know there was an issue about the way that the system would deal with taxing. You were looking at potentially setting up duplicate pension records. So the existing pension record for the pension, and then a new pension record for the additional pension going back to when they first start to the extra years, going further back to when they first started. I wonder where you are with putting those into payment, please.
I have absolutely no idea.
Sorry.
Yeah, Laura Taylorson's leading the project on Matthews. I think she might still have one or two queries to iron out. I think she was working on a test. She was just doing a test case and trying to work through that test case to see what happened, what the issues were, and whether it was feasible to do it how we wanted to do it, and it didn't bring any unintended consequences. So I'm not quite sure where we've got with that, because I know we are moving on making payments, but we're currently making payments to those who have gone straight to being a special pensioner, but have no pension records existing at the moment. And we're also dealing with those who would have been a special deferred but are now past payment date, again with no record. So we're paying those. So those people who are not getting a pension, they're being paid. But the ones who are getting a pension, and it's and there's the recalculation to that, that's where we've hit more problems. So I'm not 100% sure where we are. I don't think we've started to pay them yet.
Okay, thank you. I'll perhaps follow that up with Laura, Helen. I know it's something you wanted to get done, but as ever with this process, there's tax issues, there's system issues. Sometimes they're not foreseen or foreseeable until you come to do it, and then you find then you find the tools we've got have a not the expected outcome. So okay,
yeah, because I think the one thing that Laura was wanting, because there'd been talk and a lot of weeks ago that LGA were going to set up a working group for Matthews, and oh, sorry, my door, just one sec.
Levels are working at home. Yeah, because we have got. Yes, to say we've got the finance team cleared about 50 of these for payment. It's just obviously what Yorkshire needs better payment.
Welcome back, Helen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Sorry, that was me postman, but with something that couldn't go through the letterbox. Yeah.
There you go.
So I know that these. So we were waiting for the LGA to set up a working group, because this issue about how to pay the balance and whether it was a full recalc, Laura was wanting to have those meetings with the other administrators and FRAs who were part of this working group to get a lot of these issues discussed and answers provided, but they've never happened. So initially we were holding off waiting for these meetings, and then those meetings never happened. So now we're kind of behind the curveball, because we're having to make some decisions. But as I say, it's all with Laura. But the one thing I can confirm is that our finance team have told us that there is no financial impact on cost per member if we create a second pension record. That we've been assured that the way that we charge, it is genuinely cost per member, and it doesn't matter how many pension records a member has. It's just the one cost because it's the one person. So we got that confirmation.
Yeah, I think I've seen that, Helen. Yeah, that's useful. Thank you. That's good. Yeah, because that was a concern as well, wasn't it? You would end up paying Civica twice, and we'd then have to pay you twice. Yeah, because we were concerned that in terms of the cost, if we charge you £19 and we then created this second record, we'd be charging you £38 for that from our decision about how to do it. But no, it's just the one member with the one cost, no matter how many records they've got. Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody got anything else?
No. That would be it then this time, Helen, unless there's anything else.
No, I think I've covered everything there. So if you don't need me, I shall I'll get off and go to my next meeting.
Thank you very much for your contribution. We wish you well. Thank you very much indeed.
I'll see you next time.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right. I think we're safe to move on to item 6, which is employee representative, which is hello and good morning to you, Adam, and welcome to our meeting again.
Thank you, Chair. No, nothing to report on this occasion, Chair. I dare say I'll make comment potentially on the next item, or the final item. Thanks, Chair.
All right, thank you very much indeed. So that's postponed your comment till later. Okay. We're Right, so going with that, then we move on to item 6, which is the date of the next meeting. And have we got that down here?
21st.
Yes, 25th, yes. The 21st of May. So everybody's got that information. So then we move on to any other business, and I'm not aware of any other business. So I move on to item 9, which is the exclusion of the press and public. The public are likely to be excluded during the following item of business in accordance with section 100 bracket A bracket closed Local Government Act 1972. Update on the pension discrimination. Yes, okay, so that's later on. So that's what I've read out, and if that's taking place, can I have that confirmed by who's ever dealing with the broadcast? Are we?
So just the second.
Yeah, they can.
I'll second it.
Oh, thank you, yes. Can we switch?